Welcome to Ziegenfuss University, and it's April the 29th, and today we're going to talk about the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, Mormonism. Now, why are we doing this? Last week and the week before, we discussed Islam. What's the testimony of Islam? The risen God, whose name is Allah, his prophet is Muhammad. Now, what's the story? The angel Gabriel appears to Muhammad and says, recite, recite. And Muhammad is what? The seal of the prophets, the last prophet? Mm-hmm. Well then, what does that have to do with Mormonism? With Mormonism, Mormons believe that Joseph Smith is the last prophet, the seal of the prophet. He's the prophet. So, both of these religions have something in common. Who do you believe? Do you believe Muhammad? Or do you believe that Joseph Smith is the prophet? See how that works? So there's a link here. Now the difference is, Islam is in the Middle East. Well, it's here now on college campuses, but assume it comes from Mecca. This is a very interesting thing because it comes from where? Palmyra, New York. Upstate New York. In other words, we're talking about local lunatics here, which is I'm always interested in. Okay? Okay? What was that?
It's just outside of Victor.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah, I have too. So
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of so. If you're interested in local history like me, I've said this to Linda. I say it almost every day. I can't believe it. Where we live, if 200, 250 miles around where we live is basically everything you need to know about American history. You know, you get Boston, Philadelphia, upstate New York. I mean, it's all right here. It's amazing, right? So this is upstate New York stuff. So let's go to work here. Now, when we think of Mormons, what do we think about? Oh, those people live in Utah, okay? So Utah is kind of the center, the mecca of Mormonism today. Why? Well, we're getting ahead of the story, but they came from upstate New York, Palmyra, and they were driven out, and they went to Kirtland, Ohio, Nauvoo, Illinois, and then out to Utah. Why did they go to Utah? Are you familiar with the Mexican-American War? Yes, you are. 1846, 1848. So they left Nauvoo, Illinois in 1844, and they left and they went to Utah, except the state of Utah doesn't exist. What's Utah in 1844? Outside the boundaries of the United States. It's considered like, you know, New Spain, right? Part of Mexico, right? So did the Mexicans have a lot of involvement up in that region? Not really. The territories that are now the United States, California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, they were basically unoccupied, right? Well, the Native Americans lived there, but there was like open space. So they went there because it's just outside the borders of United States jurisdiction. And they prospered there. The Mormons are, you know, depending on which expert you consult, the fastest growing religion in the world. They send out Mormon missionaries, right? They go out 2 by 2, Mormon missions. Here comes a Mormon couple right now. They're on a mission. They're coming in, right? Okay, so Utah, right? And who's this? Glenn Beck, right? I listen to Glenn Beck every once in a while if I get bored. Well, Glenn Beck is a very strange dude. On the show, he's always talking about Christianity, Christian America. He's a Mormon, right? And what was your question today when we started? Is Mormon what?
Oh, is it real?
Well, even before that, is Mormon Christianity?
Oh, yes, that's what I said.
All right. No, they would say, yes, they're Christian. Glenn Beck, all the time, he goes, oh, we're Christian, Christian, you know. Well, no, they're Mormons. There's a major difference here. And we're going to hear about this. And if you listen to Glenn Beck, he's a very interesting character. I did a little bit of biographical work on him. The poor guy. Like, his mother committed suicide and with her boyfriend, and there's like 20 years of drug and alcohol stuff. He tries to kill himself, depression, all kinds of horrible stuff. He doesn't have a formal education. He just sort of reads books on his own. And a very interesting character. But yet he's written like 6 books, and he has this media empire. He's on Triumph Radio on Sirius if you want to listen to that. So anyway, interesting character. So he's Mormon, right? And he's one of the, every time he talks about Christianity, he makes my head explode. Okay? And who's this? Mitt Romney and Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Now, what do they have in common? Kyrsten Sinema is senator from what state? Arizona, okay? And she's not going to run for re-election, okay? Why is that? She's was a Green Party person, she's a hard left person, then she joins the Democratic Party, and they don't like her because she's not radical enough. So she's not going to, the people and the Democrats in Arizona are not going to support her, so she's not going to run for re-election. Kyrsten Sinema grew up as a Mormon. She went to Brigham Young University, and she she claims she's an atheist now. She doesn't believe it anymore, but she has the Mormon background. Okay, and Mitt Romney, of course, is a Mormon, and when he ran for president, Mormonism became like a big issue. Okay, remember when President John F. Kennedy ran? The big issue was he's Roman Catholic. Oh, we can't have a Catholic. The Pope's taking over the country, right? So he had to say, he had to like kind of back away, and he was still Catholic, but you know what I mean, So kind of wink, wink. So Romney kind of did the same thing. And a lot of people speculate the reason he lost the election is because conservative evangelicals said, we're not going to support this guy. He's a rhino. He's not a Christian, right? So they didn't vote at all, right? So these two are kind of interesting, and they're good friends in the Senate right now. And who's this? Donnie Marie Osmond. Okay, they're Mormons, and they make a big deal. Their whole career, they've made a big deal about being Mormons, and so kind of interesting. And what's it? This is the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City. There's some very interesting things about Mormon temples. They'll build a building like this. There's one in Washington, D.C. There's one. They're building like temples all over the place now. When they build a temple, it's open, so Gentiles can go there. What's a Gentile? In their lingo, it means anyone who's not a Mormon, okay? So in the Bible, there's Jews and Gentiles, but for them, anybody who's not a Mormon is a Gentile, so you'd be considered a Gentile. So you're allowed to go into the temple and look around, and then when the temple is dedicated, they tear out the carpeting and all the furniture and relay all new carpeting, and only temple Mormons are allowed to go there. What's a temple Mormon? Only 17% of Mormons get to be temple Mormons. And you have to, basically spend your whole life devoted to the church, service to the community, this sort of thing. You get recommended by the bishop, and then to be named a temple Mormon is like a huge honor. Like being a 33rd or something in Masonry, okay? So very interesting. You can't go to the temple in Washington, D.C. It looks like Disneyland when you drive in there. And the temple in Washington, D.C. is very interesting. It looks like the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. It's the Emerald City. Yeah. But it's all lit up, and there are no windows in it. But how do you get light in there? They cut marble 1/8 of an inch thick, and it lets light through. It must be quite an interesting thing to see, right? Okay, so the Mormon temples are well known, and of course, who are these people? These are Mormon missionaries, and the way this works, if you have 4 boys, let's say, in your Mormon family, you have to pay for each kid to go out on a mission. And it's a 2-year mission, and you're assigned, you go to a mission training school, and you might be sent to, I think Mitt Romney got sent to like Germany or something on his mission. But they're sent all over the world. Usually it's someplace like, Rhinebeck, right? Or Kingston or something, okay? And they're sent out 2 by 2. Why do you send missionaries out 2 by 2?
Witness.
What?
A witness.
Yeah, well, they kind of keep an eye on each other, right? Make sure you're on the straight and narrow. And when they knock on your door, like this, who are they talking to? You, 1 person, and who's talking to you? 2 people. So you have this tendency to agree with the people, right? If there's 1-on-1, you might argue with them, but if it's 2-on-1, then you tend to just sort of agree with them. So they know what they're doing, right? And they're very successful. How many doors do you have to knock on until you get 1 convert? 700 doors.
Yeah.
Right? And then I always talk about that when I talk about, business management stuff. So 700 doors. So no is the beginning point of negotiation. 700 doors, right? That's amazing, right? Okay, so These are Mormons, you know, they look, you know, and do we like these guys? Yeah, they're nice, clean-cut boys. Look at they're wearing a tie. I'm dressed like a Mormon missionary today.
Wait a minute, let me lower this. There you go.
Right? I don't have my friend with me though. Hey, Mike, get up here. All right. So these are Mormon missionaries. So do we like them? Yeah, they're clean cut, not like your grandkids, right? They don't have like facial tattoos, you know, non-binary, you know, Furby kids or something. No, they're like. And do we like Mormons? Yeah, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they work hard. You know, they're like, yeah, these are like really nice people, and they're nice people, right? Kind of all rolled into one. How could you slam the door in the face of these nice boys here? Here, have some donuts, right? Okay? And of course, we know about the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Are these people impressive? Yeah, not like our own choir, who will kind of be up there with this, right? No, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Could you imagine this, right? And they usually do a nice Christmas show, you know. It's like, how do you want to spend Christmas Eve? Let's watch the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Oh, come all ye faithful. Yeah, it's fantastic, right? And they, so they're world famous. And this is the Hill Cumorah in Palmyra. We'll talk about that in a minute. Don't go anywhere. They have a huge pageant every year where they reenact the drama of the Book of Mormon. Fantastic. Right?
We should go.
So that might be something with a cast of thousands. I'd like to see this myself.
We should go. Find out when it is.
And of course, here's Mitt Romney and the family. And one thing about Mormon people, they all seem to have blonde hair. Okay, I can't quite understand this, you know? It's like the ideal family, right? Don't you wish your family was more like this? Yeah, they're like ideal in every way. Of course, they don't talk about the dark side of it, but they, you know, it's like they have like a really good public image, wholesome, Donny Osmond type stuff. And this is on those on TV, you know, sister wives. They have all these real drama things about polygamy. Okay, and polygamy is a big thing now. Do the mainstream Mormons in Salt Lake, do they practice polygamy? The answer is no. In order for Utah to become a state, they had to give up the idea of polygamy. So this is like 1890. Okay. But there are fundamentalist Mormons that run up into the hills in Arizona and Utah, you know, places you can't get to. They still practice polygamy. And there's a whole weird, you could do a sociological study of this, where the boys, when they're like 14, 15 years old, they become a threat to the family and they're literally driven out. So you have a lot of like boys living in like, you know, Salt Lake that don't really have any means of support, and they're, you know, so it's kind of a sad thing.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, so these are fundamentalist Mormons. All right, now this is a guy named John McNaughton. I really like him a lot. His paintings are like hyper realistic. He's a Mormon artist. And what's going on here? First of all, who's the person in the center of the painting?
It looks like Jesus.
We like Jesus, right? I like Jesus,
Yeah,
right?
they look like.
And what's Jesus doing?
Holding the declaration.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Okay, now, if I was to say to you, what is the Word of God? What do you say?
The Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible, okay? 39, 27, 66 books, okay? So the Holy Bible. They would say, what is the Word of God? They would say the Bible and the Book of Mormon. We'll talk about 3 other documents. And the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. You got that? Why is it that Mormons tend to make good conservatives, like Ezra Taft Benson? He was Secretary of Agriculture in the Eisenhower administration. Because they think the Constitution is the Word of God. So
They
can you
hold
like
it
change
up.
the Constitution then? That would be no. Okay. So as a result, they view like any attack on the Constitution as like an attack on Jesus himself, which is kind of interesting.
What's that poor man suffering through?
Which one?
Your lower left. He's got his face in his hands
Oh,
and the
okay.
papers.
That's easy.
He dropped his papers.
These people are the faithful people that look to Jesus and the Constitution. These people are the people that are unfaithful. right?
Or questioning?
No, they reject Mormonism,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and they reject, you know, God and godly life and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Here, how are we saved? We're saved by grace through faith in Christ, not by works of the law. Mormonism is a system of works righteousness. So you do good works, that's how you get to heaven. Okay? So that's the difference between being a Christian and being a Mormon. They believe in saved by works, not saved by grace. And of course, they have here's Lincoln begging these people to get with the program. Washington, you know, these are the righteous people back here. And of course, the American soldiers, you know, died for our liberty, that kind of thing. This is a vision that George Washington allegedly had of the angel of liberty, flying over the United States, like giving us like the divine blessing. And here's another one. Okay, so look at this here. Okay.
Well, even Obama's in there.
Obama, he's evil because he's standing on the Constitution. And here are the founding fathers going, look what you've done to our country. And here's the forgotten man, the American citizen. Of course, who's here? Reagan, Andrew Jackson, Lincoln, you know, Kennedy's here.
The Roosevelts are there too on the left.
Yeah, they're probably on maybe like the evil side.
Yeah.
But isn't that interesting? So this is, he's alive. He paints paintings all the time. All right, so welcome. Yes. So when you go to Palmyra, they have a welcome center there, and the people are really friendly and really nice. Not like people around here. No, they're really nice up there. And usually they're from like Utah or something, and they're there like retired people on a mission. So they want to say, I give testimony. They want to talk about how they read the Book of Mormon and they felt like they had heartburn, and that's evidence that it's the Word of God. Okay, so they want to do that. So they're very friendly and welcoming. And I would encourage you to stop there. All right, now, who is this? I always like German theologians and philosophers, so this is Ernst Troeltsch, okay? And he came up with a very useful way to think about these things. And what is it? Church, sect, cult, okay? So let's start with the church. What is the church? The church is any group that believes in the Holy Bible, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, the Athanasian Creed. That's a pretty good idea. Word and sacrament. We believe that Jesus is the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Right? That's church, right? What's a sect? A sect would be a group within a church that's attempting to reform it. So what are Puritans? Puritans are in England. They remained part of the Church of England, the Anglican Church, Episcopalian Church, but they were trying to reform it from within. And when you get to the point where they're not going to listen to us and not reform us, then they break away and start their own particular organization. So cults would be, they're not a church and they're not a sect. They stand outside of, they're beyond the pale, okay? So what do you do if you want to think about a cult? You have a couple of weapons in your arsenal, arrows in your quiver. First of all, you have the Holy Bible. Is it important to study the Holy Bible? Yeah. Why? Because that's the rule and guide of your faith. So you want to know the Holy Bible. You want to come to church. You want to pay attention to the sermons. You want to study the Bible. Right? That's the foundation of everything we believe. Okay. The second thing, yeah, but I don't have time to read the Bible. I'm too busy watching Jeopardy. Right? Okay. So what's on page 85 of your green Lutheran Book of Worship? The Apostles' Creed. And if you really want to get into it, page 84 is the Nicene Creed. Or if you're like Bobby Choupé, you want to read the Athanasian Creed. Okay? Well, what are these? These come from the early church, and for the last 2,000 years, I'm rounding up, Christians have that's what we believe. Right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And it's so cults tend to reject every point of the Apostles' Creed, like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay? Or the Mormons. Okay? So the home base, whenever anybody says, hey, I want you to think about this religion, okay, good, we should know about it. But the measuring rod is this. It's like, here's the Apostles' Creed, here's the, okay, well, it doesn't measure up. Okay? So church, sect, cult. This is a very useful designation. All right, now, Mormonism is an American religion. Right? American religion. It started in America. It's only in America would something like this happen. So it's an American religion, and it's rooted in the idea of the westward expansion of America. Okay? And this is like 1830. Who was president in 1830? Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson. And what's his big thing? We're going to start the world over again. It's called restorationism. It's a new nation, a new world, and a new religion. So what was going on in the other side of the pond in the old world? Well, things like the 30 Years' War, the Napoleonic Wars. They're fighting, constant fighting. We come over here and we can leave all the baggage behind. We're not Catholics anymore. We're not Lutherans anymore. We're not Presbyterian. No, we're going to start the world with a new way of looking at the world. A new thing. It's a new land and a new world. Okay? And if you want to start a new religion, where do you go? Well, you don't stay in New England. What's a religion in New England? Well, they're Congregationalists over there. They're pretty rigorous. So you want to get away from those people. Do you stay in Rhinebeck? Not really. You go to Western New York. And the farther west you go, the better. Because there's no... Look, I don't want my father telling me what to do. I'm not going to work in that factory. Screw you. I leave. So you leave and you go out west. They say in Kansas, it's the place where you can reinvent yourself for the second or third time. Is that interesting? Because in the West, nobody really cares. You know, they might ask you where you're from, but not really. You know, you're from the West, and obviously, you know, you want to like reinvent yourself. So that's why you go out there to begin with. So restorationism, it's called. And what's this? This is the Erie Canal. And this is DeWitt Clinton. He's one of the great governors of New York, a genius. And he's the guy that came up with the idea of let's do the Erie Canal, 310 miles. What's the problem with New York? You can't go west because there's the Appalachian Mountains over there. You have to get to the other side of the mountain somehow. So they surveyed and they connected the Hudson River. You go up to Troy. Troy is the outlet, and you got on the Erie Canal, and you go all the way out to the Great Lakes. What can you do if you go from Rhinebeck to Troy to the Erie Canal to the Great Lakes? Well, that's the West, right? The frontier. The whole world is waiting for you. Do you ever watch the movie How the West Was Won? Of course not. It came out in 1963. Watch that movie. So Carl Malden takes his family out on the Erie Canal and into Ohio and then out west. So the Erie Canal is the way you get to the west. How would we get west today? Well, you go to New Jersey, you get on Highway 80, and then you go all the way out to Sacramento. They didn't have the interstate highway system. So the way to do it is the Erie Canal. So what happens along the Erie Canal? Nobody lives out there. So this is 1824, 1825, 1826. So people from New England, Vermont, right, Massachusetts, right, they want to get out of there and they want freedom, so they go to Western New York where there's nothing, and so they're restarting. So all those towns out there, you know, Utica, Rome, you know, Amsterdam is one of them, Rochester, New York, Buffalo, those are all like boom towns that are created by Yankees coming from New England looking for freedom. Okay? And here, this shows the movement west. And again, remember, where's the frontier? Well, at one time, the Hudson River was the frontier. Right? So on this side is civilization, on that side is the wilderness. So where did the Palatine Germans live? On the frontier. Schoharie? Why is that? Because if the Germans get killed, who cares? They're expendable. Who owned the land? Dutch people and British people owned the land, and Germans are like there to be slaughtered by the Indians because they live in the frontier. Herkimer, right, all that stuff, okay? So the frontier is a moving thing. So the frontier moves from Hudson River through New York out to Ohio and then out like that. It's moving to the west, right? This shows the Yankee diaspora. What is that? If you read histories of the Civil War, right? Where do they raise the regiments for the Union Army? They came along from this belt right here. Right? They're not border states. These are people from New England that resettled and went out west, places like Wisconsin, right? So these are the Yankee diaspora. So they start in New England and they spread out to the west. And this shows, okay, new land, right? I pay attention to this for a second. What's this? This is Louisiana, right? Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. You see this territory in here? And Tennessee, Kentucky. That area is where the 5 civilized tribes lived: the Choctaws, the Cherokees, anyway. So the 5 tribes. When Andrew Jackson came in as president, he did the Indian Removal Act and got rid of the tribes that lived here. And then he moved to Oklahoma, Indian Territory. That opened up all of that land. What do you do with that land? You have plantations. And you grow cotton, which is labor intensive. How do you grow cotton? You need slaves to grow the cotton. So the Indian Removal Act and the creation of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi opened up that's one of the causes of the Civil War. Right? They need slaves to pick the cotton. Okay? So the frontier moves in this direction, out this way. And of course, what is this? Here's Utah. That was a part of Mexico. So the Mormons end up going out there. And again, it shows, it starts on the East Coast, and we go from the East Coast to the West Coast. How do you understand Russian history? It's the opposite. They start in the West and go to the East. It's the opposite, right? Kind of interesting. And you get Louisiana Purchase, westward expansion, right? These are trails. Again, they don't have the interstate highway system. So in order to get on the other side of the Rocky Mountains, you have to go on trails. The Oregon Trail is very famous, right? And usually they leave from Independence or St. Joe, Missouri, St. Louis, and they end up going west. And maybe 40% of the people died along the way, right? It was a brutal way to go. It may take maybe 6 months to get across the country, right? So these are 1830s, 1840s. And what's this? A famous image, Manifest Destiny, right? And I love this picture. It's and who's the woman in the dress? Columbia, right? Columbia, it personifies North America, right? And which way is she walking?
West.
She's going from the east to the west, and you'll notice what's going on here. They're plowing. Right? They're plowing, the railroads are coming here, she's putting the telegraph line down, stagecoaches are going west, ox carts are going west, the Pony Express is going west, the Indians are running the other way. Okay? So civilization is coming here from New England and going out this way across the country. I love that picture. And then, because this is westward expansion, again, remember, Mormonism is the American religion. It's the religion of the West. It's a Western American religion. Horace Greeley, right, one of the great lunatics from New York City, Horace Greeley, go west, young man, and grow up with the country. So if you were a person living in Rhinebeck, you're like 19 years old, you don't have a lot of prospects or whatever, you take whatever money you have and get out of here, and you go out to the west, okay? Do we have any traders that call me up and want to see the cemetery? Yeah, they live in Iowa. So your relatives left here at some point and went out to get homesteaded out in Iowa. So there's like traders out there that came from here originally, right? What was it? Yeah, not all of them. Some of them stayed, right? The successful ones are the ones that left. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my.
Okay, so here, this is the growth of the United States. So you have to understand, there's a tremendous shift taking place at about the time that Joseph Smith is doing his thing with the Book of Mormon. Okay, so we're moving to the west. Remember, the way it is now is not the way it's always been. Because you always have to think of the historical context. Would Mormonism start today? No, but for 1830s, it's the right time at the right place. This is Daniel Boone leading people west across the Cumberland Gap in western Maryland. Okay, so that's the frontier. And what's on the other side? Utopia, paradise. Yeah, no factories. No rules. Do whatever you want. Freedom is on the other side. I must admit, it's pretty romantic, pretty appealing to me, right?
Yeah, but in reality, that's
Start
hard
from
living.
scratch.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
goodness.
basically it's hard.
Yeah.
Build a
Right.
log cabin and
All right. Okay, so again, this shows the United States being added. Okay, Utah becomes a state in 1896, and they had to give up polygamy. So they had polygamy up until that time. And again, unorganized territory. It's unfolding from the east to the west. Now, as the country is expanding, they get out to places like Ohio. That's the frontier. What do you find when you go to Ohio? Indian mounds.
Oh.
Now, do they have anthropology? Do they have people who study Native American culture? The answer would be no. So here you are, you're a Yankee, you're from Vermont, you read the Bible, you're a Puritan or something, and you're out in Ohio. What do you see when you get there? Indian mounds. Well, the Indians that I know, the Wampanoag Indians, you know, the people who live in Cape Cod, the Pequots and all this stuff, well, they're horrible people, right? Remember that we had the King Philip's War where 8,000 people were killed in New England fighting in this thing by the Indians. So the Puritans, we don't like Indians. So when you get out here to Ohio and you see these mounds, could these ignorant savages, these people who slaughtered my grandfather, could these people be sophisticated enough to build a burial mound, mounds like this? Elaborate structures, right? Well, so guess what? Inquiring minds want to know. So what do they say? Well, these people are actually the lost 10 tribes of Israel. This is Mel Brooks from Blazing Saddles. You ever watch that? And the black family is on the Conestoga wagon, and because they don't like black people, they're all by themselves, going the wagon around the circle, the white people there, and then the Indian chief pulls up, and what does he speak? Yiddish. So when you watch it, it's fantastic. You're like, he's talking Yiddish. So they think that, the theory is the lost tens of tribes of Israel ended up in the New World, and really when you see an Indian, you're seeing like Mel Brooks speaking Yiddish. Now does that sound ridiculous? No,
Not in that context.
it sounds pretty plausible. The Indians from New England, now they live in like, little, wigwams and stuff, that's not, but the ones out here, look at, they build these structures. The Indians we know would never build that, but the lost 10 tribes of Israel, they might do it. Now, do they have anthropology, DNA studies? The answer is no. So it might have been plausible in 1830, okay? It might have been like, okay, yeah, that kind of explains, the advanced civilization here, right? So where do we come from, okay? This is called the out of Africa theory, okay? So we crossed over. Okay, this is Beringia. Okay, you used to be able to walk right across here from Asia across to North America. Why? 25,000 years ago, the last ice age, we would be under 3,000 feet of ice right now. So there'd be 3 on top of this iron. Okay, and the fresh water was locked up in the glaciers. And the sea level was 200 feet lower than it is now. So Florida would be twice as wide as it is now. You could walk from modern day France to England on dry land. The English Channel wasn't there. And you could walk across Beringia. So the idea is that the native, we call it, if you say to a Native American, first of all, should I call you an Indian or a Native American? The answer is, don't call me either one. I'm a Cherokee. Or I'm a Lakota person, or Lenni Lenape person. That's the Delaware Indians. So they usually identify with their tribe, not Indian, because they're not from India, and they're not really Native American, so they don't like that title either. So you ask them, what are you? And let them tell you, I'm a Cherokee, or whatever, okay? So if you say to them, where did you people come from? They're going to say something like this. We came from the earth. Right? We've always been here, we came from the earth. So their creation story is that we've always been here. So they're not going to say, we came from Siberia across the Beringia. Okay, this is a latter reconstruction. So notice, do you see any like boats coming from Israel carrying the lost 10 tribes of Israel? No. Okay? So we know this now from archaeology, and the DNA supports this. So there's no, you do DNA studies, you know where people came from, going back to like 5000 BC or before, right? So they have the same markers in the DNA. Obviously the first Americans, right? It's a remarkable thing. Right, here at Beringia, okay, that's, remember the sea levels are lower. And we find Folsom and Clovis points and so on. It's fascinating stuff. And where did most of the Native Americans settle? Not in New York, not in New England, because the ice sheet is still receding here. And it's tough to live here. They went to Central America, Mesoamerica, okay? So most of the population, when Columbus, 1492 is a good date, 1492, when they landed here, most of the people that were here lived in Central America, okay? Mesoamerica, Central America, Yucatan Peninsula, like millions, right? And then along the ridge of the Andes Mountains, that's the Incas. So Mesoamerica, right? And the Olmec people are probably the oldest, and then the Mayans are a couple thousand years of Mayan civilization, and then the Aztecs are about 150 to 200 years before Cortez and the Spanish got here. So it gives you some idea. And they had cities, organized trade networks. They didn't have iron and steel making, but they had obsidian. What's that? Volcanic glass, and you flake it, and it makes an edge 100 times sharper than surgical steel. Do you want to be cut by an obsidian Aztec blade? The answer would be no. It'll take your head off, right? Here, this is an Olmec feature. These are not Africans. Some people say, oh, that's an African person. No, this is the way the Mayans look. They're like, these Olmec heads are like 8 to 10 feet tall.
What are they, statues?
No, it's a big boulder with a face on it of one of their gods.
Oh.
Kind of neat, huh? Do they look like Hebrews or anything? Lost 10 tribes? No, they don't. Okay, so these are empires, right? These are big. They build pyramids. Aha! Just like the pyramids in Egypt. The answer would be no. It's a different construction technique, right? So, it isn't like ancient aliens gave them the blueprints. Why do I hate the ancient aliens concept so much? Because human beings are remarkable. Human beings are unbelievable at what we can do if we put our mind to it. We design, we build things, we create things. We don't need to have ancient aliens coming with a blueprint to tell us how to build things. See? It's really an obnoxious claim. It puts down the human race, right? And what's remarkable about these pyramids, and I'm going to go there someday, but you have to wait for world peace to break out, and I think the way to go would be go on some kind of a cruise and park and get off and go on a bus to the site and come back again. Because I wouldn't want to go there now, you would be kidnapped or something, right? But it'd be something I'd really like to see. They built all this without a hammer and a chisel. Mike, how do you take a rough stone and take off all of the imperfections and make it into a stone that you can use for a building with a hammer and chisel, right? They didn't use that. They used like other rocks, and they would hit it until it's perfectly smooth, and some of them are like, you can't get a piece of paper in between. There's no mortar. It's a remarkable, it's just an astonishing thing, okay? And are these Hebrew-like structures? The answer would be no. These are Native Americans that were, remarkable builders, okay? Here, look at that. This is impressive. Now, in the 1840s, if you saw something like this, you'd go, yeah, these are lost 10 tribes of Israel. Yes, there's a certain affinity, okay? Now, could we read the hieroglyphics of the Mayans and Aztecs in 1830? The answer is no. What happens when you read the hieroglyphics?
You find out the story.
Yeah, and what's the story of the Aztecs and the Mayans? Human sacrifice. They enslave the weak people, and they offer like 30,000 beating hearts, and then they cut their heart out and chop off their head and kick the bodies down the steps like a meat tenderizer, right? So is this something that you read about in the Holy Bible? Is this the way the Hebrews, the lost 10 tribes of Israel? They were degenerates because they turned from God, but they didn't sacrifice like 30,000 people and cut their hearts out and so on. It's a different culture. Remember? How do you spell a culture?
Cult.
Yeah, cult, okay? Cult, it doesn't mean church sect cult like Ernst Troeltsch. In this case, it means like religious teachings. So if you want to understand India, you study Hinduism. You want to understand Aztecs and Mayans, you study their religion, their religious ideas. And their religious ideas have no affinity to anything that comes out of the Middle East. Okay? Very interesting. And this is, now it's modern day Mexico City, the elaborate thing. This is when Cortez arrived, right? And here they are, the reconquistadores, right, are unemployed when they drove out the Muslims in 1492, so they signed on to go to the New World to beat up on the people over here. What do Moors look like? They have dark skin and black hair. What do Native Americans look like? They have dark skin and black hair. Are Moors Roman Catholic? No, they're Islamic. Are the Native Americans Roman Catholic? No. So you can enslave them, beat them, kill them, do whatever you want to them because they're subhuman, they're not Catholics. Okay? So if you wanted to pick a European group to come over here, the worst case would be the Spanish Roman Catholics. They're hard dudes. 785 years of fighting the Moors, okay? And they have horses, they have Damascus steel swords, and the Aztecs are pretty tough. They have obsidian blades, and they have arrows, right? Pretty tough dudes. But the secret weapon was what? The Spanish brought along a slave who had smallpox, and it spread and wiped out like 90% of the Aztec population, so it was easy to take them over. They didn't do it on purpose. It was like when two civilizations clash, what happens? Guns, germs, and steel. This book came out in 1995. You got to read this book. This is a book where if you're a college graduate in the last 20 years, you know this book. It's referred to in business management books. Everybody talks about this book. Jared Diamond, Guns, Germs, and Steel. And why is it that the Spanish came over here and conquered the Aztecs and not the other way around? That's a pretty good question, isn't it? Well, the Aztecs didn't have boat building technology, and they were content with their civilization in Central America. Whereas the Spanish had boat building, and they had an incentive to come over here and conquer the New World. So it's a very interesting thing. All right, history of Mormonism. Now finally getting to it, right? I just went into the backfilling here. This is Sharon, Vermont. Where is it? Sharon, Vermont. You want to go there sometime. It's in the middle of nowhere. This is the birthplace of Joseph Smith. And there's a monument there. They have really nice Mormon people there that'll give you a guided tour. And when you go there, you look at this and you're like, wow, these people were really poor. Is it easy to be a farmer in like the middle of Vermont? Way up there? Nah, it's pretty tough. You're going to be poor and you're going to work really hard. Well, so Joseph Smith, Joseph Smith Sr. was his father, and they grew up in poverty. And what do? You get out of there and you go to New York along the Erie Canal because that's where the future is. Right? Free land, right? You don't have to put up with the rules and regulations, the congregational people, and so you're free to go. So they left. Again, this is the Yankee Empire that spread out. It comes from Vermont and New England and spreads out along the Erie Canal, then out into Ohio and farther west. Now, where do they settle? Palmyra. This is called the Burnt Over District. What does that mean? There are a series of religious revivals in western New York. Why is that? The people who live there are Yankees from New England. What happened in 1818, 1823 in New England? It's called disestablishmentism. So the Congregational Church in Connecticut, if you lived in Connecticut, you paid your taxes and it went to support the state church, which is the Congregational Church. Same thing in Massachusetts. Well, what if you're a Baptist or if you're Jewish or something? Tough, you pay the tax to support the Congregational Church. So when the tax dollars are removed, that set a lot of anxiety for people, right? So the Congregational Church in New England is so people then, when they go to the West, you have to have free enterprise people preaching the gospel without state support. So you end up with these revival meetings to try to get people to join your particular group. Be a Presbyterian, be a Baptist, whatever, okay? Okay, so it's a burnt up. So young Joseph Smith, he's mildly interested in religion, so he goes into the sacred grove, I'll show you a picture of it in a second, and he says, he prays to God, show me which religion is the true religion. Is it Methodism, Presbyterianism, Baptist, Lutherans, whatever? And the answer is, they're all wrong, start your own religion. Just that the world needs another religion, okay? So that's the answer. They're all wrong and they're all corrupt, start your own. What is it? Restorationism. That impulse of we don't want the old Puritan rules in New England, we don't want the Lutheran Church, we want a fresh start, a new religion, a new continent, a new land. But it has to do with the expansion of the West, right? And does that idea sound pretty good? Yeah. Where I'm coming from is like it's an oppressive place. Living in Springfield or Hartford or something. I want to get out of here and go to a place of freedom, and I really don't want to have some congregational minister stick in the mud telling me how to run my life. So let's have something new. Restorationism. And this shows kind of some of the spreading around of these new religions. And do we have any interesting new religions? Yeah, we have all kinds of new religions. And here's a preacher. Notice, do they have a building? You don't need a building. And do they drink? No, they're into the temperance movement. So you drink coffee or tea instead. Okay? No, they don't like drinking. Right? This is upstate New York, out along the Erie Canal. Watervliet, that's where the Shakers are. Don't make me do a 3-hour lecture about the the Shakers. It's Mother Ann Lee from England was abused by her horrible husband, and she had a revelation that she's the female Christ. And they have celibacy. So marriage is an evil thing. So they live in communes, so we have Shaker communities. Are there any around? I think there's like 2 Shakers left in North America. Right? Why? Because it's good to multiply, be fruitful and multiply. Right? So the Shakers are here. Lowhampton, New York, the William Miller, who predicts the end of the world, 1843, 1844. Is that sort of interesting? It's the same basic time period as the Book of Mormon. Isn't that interesting? So there's something in the air. And that's the Seventh-day Adventist movement. And of course, in Boston, we have Mary Baker Eddy and Christian Science. Do we like Mark Twain? He's not a nice man. He's a bad boy. So what does Mark Twain say? It's neither Christian nor is it science. Cha-ching! What is it? It's vicious. He's vicious. He's not a nice man. Or you go to Oneida, okay? You know the silverware? Okay? These are John Humphrey Noyes. And he went to Yale. He's one of these like revival type preachers, and he had a revelation. What is it? Marriage is evil, so we're going to have open marriage. So what does that mean? Well, you come to the church council and you go, hey, I'm a dude, and I like to have sex with that woman over there. Okay, we'll give you approval for that. Or you could be not approved for it. Like McRitchie wouldn't get approved for anything. Right? So the church council would vote him down. I'm sorry, no, not for you. Okay? And so one of the assassin of William McKinley was a really ugly dude who was a follower of John Humphrey Noyes, and he got voted down a lot. So maybe it's a sexual, oppression or something that caused him to kill the president, right? So it's not a good thing. All right, and then Palmyra is the Mormons. Seneca Falls, the women's rights movement. Is that a lunatic idea?
No.
Well, if you said that in Massachusetts, they would tell you to go away. But you can say it in Seneca, New York, and you're on the cutting edge of being brilliant. Okay? Abolitionist people in Rochester, New York. And then spiritualism, this is 1840. What's this? These are the Fox sisters. So they would do seances to contact your dead ancestors and relatives, and they would give you like revelations. It was very popular, especially after the Civil War. When your husband or son is killed, we want to know if he's okay or not. Okay, so spiritualism. So we have all these weird things. And New York City is the Theosophical Society, 1878, 3-hour lecture. So we have all these weird, you know where Franklin Roosevelt lived? Okay, across the river, Father Divine lived there, right? And he had his own religion. He was supposed to be the new Messiah and all this, right? So we have all these strange, and Jehovah's Witnesses are in Brooklyn. New York is like the seedbed of lunatics. And the farther north and west you get, the more you get, right? So when you get out to like, out there by the Erie Canal, loony land out there, right? It starts in Woodstock and it goes downhill all the way out to Lyme, right? So, all right, so this shows the Mormons bought up the land around the Smith Farm and the Sacred Grove. You can actually go there, and I've been there, and I walked around, I looked, I didn't see the Angel Moroni, so I went home. And he probably went to the diner or something, So it's there in upstate New York in Palmyra. And here he is in the woods, right? I plead my cause, right? In other words, which religion is the true religion? And the answer is, they're all wrong, start your own. The Sacred Grove, here it is. And there's all these great, is this actually a photo? No, they have these Mormon artists that draw these like hyper-realistic paintings here. They look pretty interesting, pretty good, right? Sacred Grove, and this is the Smith House. Again, it's like an interpretive center with nice Mormons that will talk to you when you go there. Right? This is the Hill Cumorah Monument, right? And the Hill Cumorah is at Drumlin. What's that? When the glacier came through, it left the debris behind. So there's these weird little mounds, kind of like Burger Hill. I don't think it's a true drumlin, but they look like, it's about like Burger Hill. You go up there on the top, right?
We actually saw the scrape marks.
Yes,
of the
from the
paintings.
glacier coming through,
yeah.
right? So here it is, the monument on top of the hill. This is where the gold plates were allegedly hidden on the Hill Cumorah. Who called it the Hill Cumorah? Only Joseph Smith. So the Indians didn't call it that. No one around he called it that. And here's the interpretive center, and with the impressive paintings. And here, what a handsome guy. And it's supposed to be Joseph Smith. He's like Muhammad. He's the prophet. Okay? So you have to say, which one is the real prophet? If you think Joseph Smith is the prophet, you're a Mormon. If you think Muhammad is the prophet, then you're Islamic. See how that works? So that's why there's a connection here. And here he is, and they have these biographies of Joseph Smith. He's a diligent, obedient son who studied and read all the time. He had no formal education, but they make him sound like he's, like the golden boy or something. One night he's sleeping, and the angel Moroni appears to him. Right? Now, are you suspicious already? Yeah.
Because
Angel names have to end in L.
yeah.
The angel Moroni, right? And they tried to send Mormon missionaries to China. Okay? And when they would talk to the Chinese people and start talking about the angel Moroni, the Chinese people would get up and run away screaming. Moroni in Chinese means demon. And the demon appeared. Ah! So the angel Moroni appeared to him. All right? And then he goes out into the Sacred Grove, and who appears to him? You can barely make it out, but there's two people there, right? And who is that? It's the Father and Jesus appearing. Is that a red flag for you Trinitarian Christians?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We believe in the Holy Trinity. It's one God in three persons. So the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are distinct persons, but they don't appear together. Right? Because there's one God. There's not three gods. And here's another vision, right? With all these paintings of his visions here. Here he is in the Sacred Grove, right? Here he is walking in the woods. You have to be careful you walk in the woods, you get deer ticks, right?
Yeah.
I guess before they had deer ticks. And here he is getting a revelation from God. And again, hey, why not? Right? If they did revelations in the Old Testament, why shouldn't they do them in upstate New York? New land? Restoration? See what I mean? And here he is. All right, now the problem is when he tells the story of his revelations, there are several variations to it. You know, sometimes it's the Lord, sometimes it's a bunch of people, sometimes it's the Father and the Holy Spirit and Jesus, right? So you don't quite know. And here they are again, and notice how the Father looks a lot like the Son. It's a family resemblance there. And here he is again, getting all these and what is he holding in his hand? These are the gold plates, right? And of course, it looks better if you make it into a stained glass window. It seems more religious that way, rather than I was walking in the woods and I hallucinated, I was seeing things. Sure you did. Yeah, that's good. And here it is. These are the gold plates with special glasses that you put on that enable you to read the language that's on the gold plates. And what's the language? Reformed Egyptian. So the gold plates are written in Reformed, but with the special glasses you can read. Okay, stop. Is there such thing as Reformed Egyptian? In 1830, we didn't know how to read hieroglyphics yet. Jean Champollion, who decoded the Rosetta Stone, this is like 1832, something like that. It's about the same time, but Joseph Smith didn't know about it yet, because it's in France. So we didn't really know how to read hieroglyphics. So you could make a claim, oh, it's Reformed Egyptian. Well, now you say Reformed Egyptian, you'd be laughed off the block. There's no such thing. You can't go to the Egyptology department at the University of Chicago, the Oriental Institute, and go, can I see some documents in Reformed Egyptian? I mean, that's stupid. Okay? There's no such thing. And are the gold plates around anywhere? They miraculously disappeared. So there's no way to verify it. Not that I'm cynical or skeptical. And here they are. This is his friend, Cowderley, and they were both ordained into the Aaronic priesthood of Aaron. And if you're a Temple Mormon, it's the order of Melchizedek, the 17%. So there are different levels here. And here they are. And this is John the Baptist bestowing a blessing upon the first two Mormon witnesses. Here we are, laying on our hands. All right, here we go. And this is John and Peter and John the Baptist, I think. Right? So they're passing on and these are his different revelations over time. Here he is again, idealized picture. There he is, holding the Book of Mormon for us. And as they move west, they build Mormon temples. Okay? And here they get, this is the Elijah appearing with an update on some new information. Things like polygamy is a good idea. Okay, that was a revelation. I imagine you coming home breaking that news to the little woman. Hey, I was down in the church praying and God said, I have to have at least 12 new wives, right? What do you think Mrs. Smith would have said? Here's my frying pan and my rolling pan. Take your pick, Joe. Darn! I have a revelation from my frying pan. Right? So we don't know. This could be a picture of Joseph Smith. We don't know. Same thing here. We don't know. This is the angel Moroni. This is an artistic recreation. And here, this is the story of translating the gold plates. And here we go. Okay, so the Book of Mormon. Again, how does it work? Remember, this is the Bible. This is the Book of Mormon. If there's a contradiction in the Bible, where do you look? The Book of Mormon trumps the previous revelation. So the Bible is accurate as well as translated, as long as it's in harmony with the Book of Mormon. So the Book of Mormon is like the Quran in that way. Okay? So that works? It's comparative religion stuff. And here's Sharon, Vermont, where he's from. Again, he's a New England Yankee. Again, they idealize his family. And Joseph Smith Sr. was like, he was into the occult and all kinds of bizarre get-rich-quick schemes. He had an obsession about trying to find Captain Kidd's treasure, all kinds of bizarre stuff, right? Weird stories from the neighbors. And this is the log cabin. This is where he allegedly, got the first visitation from the angel as a young man. Here he is. And here he okay? Now, this is the angel Moroni, who is the last survivor of his race. And he writes it all down and buries it at the hill Cumorah, only to be revealed to Joseph Smith like 1,500 years later. Okay? And that becomes the Book of Mormon according to Joseph Smith. And here it is, buried away. And these are the gold plates that no one seems to have seen. And here he is. It's all authentic and verified. And here he is, Reformed Egyptian. He's looking at it. Well, yeah, he has the glasses are here somewhere in the picture. Yeah, well, okay, here. Okay, so here it is, translating it. All right, here he's working with a scribe, and he's dictating the Book of Mormon. And here he is. Yeah, and he has a top hat with a peepstone in it, and you look in, you know, and that's how you get the revelations correct. Here he is looking at it.
I think he was walking among the wacky mushrooms
I think in the Sacred Grove.
in the Sacred Grove.
So here it is. The Book of Mormon is 1830. What year? 1830. Very interesting. The Erie Canal was completed when 1824. He's out of Palmyra. So he's a product of his culture. And people want to know, how about those Indian mountains, the legends? You know, it's the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Okay? So there's something in the air. And he gets a group of followers, and these are, you know, yes, we're authenticating the gold plates. So this is, you know, fictionalized, I would say. And here it is. Of course, he has blue eyes. Here he is, Joseph Smith. This is the Hill Cumorah. They have like it looks like a building in Washington, D.C., doesn't it? It's like the interpretive center. You can actually go there to Palmyra and check it out. Here's their movement, okay? So, first of all, they start in Shannon, Vermont. They go to Palmyra. This is Kirtland, Ohio. And then out here, Independence, Missouri. And then Nauvoo, Illinois. And then across out here to Utah, which is beyond the boundaries of the United States. So they move from where? The east to the west. It's a Western religion, okay? LDS movements. And Joseph Smith, he had his own militia unit. I must admit, snappy uniform. And he was going to run for president. And he had enough followers in Nauvoo, Illinois, where he had his own newspaper, his own like enterprises going, and a lot of them were kind of corrupt and shady. You know, they thought it was okay to like rob the Gentiles and swindle them out of their land, plunder the Gentiles because they're not Mormons, right? So they were, and he also introduced the idea of polygamy is a great idea, okay? So did that go over big with the neighbors? I mean, they don't mind if you get murdered and they steal from you, but polygamy is a deal breaker, okay? So they're very unpopular. Here he is. He was going to run for president in 1846. And he has polygamy, how many wives? I don't know, 30, 40 wives. We don't quite know how many. And and his brother Hiram is like his co-conspirator. The two of them are together on their enterprise. Right? And they're building a big structure here. And they're arrested, right, for polygamy and swindling people and all kinds of things. And they're put in this particular jail. So in 1844, they were involved in a jailbreak attempt, shootout, and they were lynched by the mob. Okay? And here's Joseph Smith, you know, engaging in a big shootout in his room upstairs. And he's shot and killed. The brother Hiram goes first. Joseph Smith, he tries to get out the window, and he's shot and falls down dead on the ground out there. Here's the angry lynch mob. Here they are being, and of course for the Mormons, he's a martyr. He's martyred for the faith. And there are rumors that in 1840, 1843, when they got to Nauvoo, they formed 5 Masonic lodges that were involved in Freemasonry, and that the lynch mob was a Masonic lynch mob. The Masons killed them. That's one theory. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories, you know, because he was corrupting Masonry, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, he was lynched. Here he was being thrown out the window. And here are the dead bodies, death masks of Joseph and Hiram. Here they are, that's their grave, or I think it's a marker, I don't know where they're buried. And of course, it's like a religious site for them now.
Where was it?
This is Nauvoo, Illinois. It's right across the river, and then you're into the west. And who takes over? Brigham Young takes over. You've heard of Brigham Young University? And who's he? He's a very capable leader, a very interesting character. He kind of took up the remnants of the movement with Joseph Smith's death. What do we? Maybe we better stop here. Is there any question? We'll do part 2 next week, because I want to get into the